Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today here on FFG Live. We are so excited to be here to talk to you about Star Wars Unlimited. You have no idea. We'll talk more about that later. Let's start by introducing the guests that I have with me today. We're going to start with Danny Schaefer. Danny is our lead game designer for Star Wars Unlimited. Thanks for coming, Danny.
Oh, thank you. I'm just so excited to finally be able to tell people about this awesome game.
It's about time. And next to Danny, we have Jim Cartwright, who is our product strategy director here at Fantasy Flight Games, and also a co-designer on the game.
Yeah, I changed jobs multiple times during this process. That's how long it's been going on.
Right? Yeah, as we know, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, I'm super giddy if you can't tell. As always, I'm Josh. I am the program... Oh my gosh, I don't even know my own title. I'm the organized play program manager. So I will be talking a little bit about OP, which we hinted at in one of our articles today, later. But let's start by just talking about the fact that we finally got to announce this game.
Yes.
It has been so long. You guys have obviously known about it a little bit longer than me. Only a little bit.
Just a little.
But we finally, people know the name of the game. People have information. And it has been so much fun watching socials and watching the conversation. Tell me your guys' initial reactions to this.
I mean, it's just amazing since, again, 3 years, summer of 2020, since we started R&D on this game.
Yep.
To have been totally silent about it, not been able to tell anybody, and finally get the game out there, see people's reactions. It's been pretty incredible.
Yeah, last Tuesday was a huge weight lifted just to be able to say out loud the words to somebody that wasn't inside the studio, Star Wars Unlimited. It was incredible.
Yeah, we're very excited for it, but we have a lot to talk about today. So let's just jump right into it. Okay?
Yeah.
So obviously there's something we want to talk about with you all right here, right now, because we have been watching the comments and we knew kind of what to expect. So Jim, why don't you start us off by talking about past projects and kind of where we're going here?
Yeah, absolutely. We are in a space where one of the things we want to do at Fantasy Flight is be more transparent and talk about things more openly to all of you. And one of the things that we've all noticed looking through the comments is, of course, Star Wars Destiny, right? It's the 800-pound gorilla in the corner. And I want to be very clear. we love Star Wars Destiny. We have always loved Star Wars Destiny. And it was unfortunate that the manufacturing of that game is one of the things that led to it being unproducible going forward. And we wish it wasn't the case, but it was. And it was, some time later, a year later, when we started thinking about coming back to the TCG space, we wanted to, understand that's a lesson we had to learn. And one of the things we talked about when we said it's not gimmicky is the idea that we're not going to add these kind of manufacturing complications. We're not going to have kind of deck building restrictions that limit your ability to build in a traditional TCG. And so these were very important lessons that we learned from past games, not just Destiny, but others, in a way to move forward. And so you're not gonna hear us talk about Star Wars Destiny any further after this. But I wanted, we wanted to talk about what it, that we are aware and we hear all of the comments, and just again a new era of transparency. So. But there's so many exciting things to talk about with this game, so I think that's probably a good place to start jumping off on the new stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So 100% we are going to talk about Unlimited today. We want to talk about Unlimited. We think you want to hear about Unlimited, so we're just going to jump right into it. So let's talk about, for this game, what makes it special and what makes it unique.
For sure. And I guess to start with, what is Unlimited? It's a trading card game. And is a fast-paced strategic card game. And when I say fast-paced, I mean this is a game that if you play for an hour, you could get 3, 4, 5, maybe even more games in. Go change your deck, play 5 more games the next hour. That was something from the start that we were like, we want this to be a quick-playing, back-and-forth kind of game.
Yeah, we didn't practice this, but I will say out loud now, I beat Tyler in 7 minutes once.
7 minutes? That's
Tyler.
Faster than my record.
That's
actually.
you.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm
calling Tyler out just on stream like that. Just
Love you, Tyler.
And this is also a game that, going along with that fast pace, we designed to be accessible, easy to learn, but also with a lot of strategic depth. I think it's a game that, even if you haven't played a TCG before, you can pick up pretty quickly. We've taught it to a lot of people over the past year. Yeah,
a couple of those people, again, I'm jumping in, sorry, I know it's your turn, but a couple of those people are actually my kids who played the first time when they were 7. They were 7 years old when they played the first time, and granted, they're my kids, so they're more into games than most kids at their age, but they were able to pick it up and actually understand it. Granted, they wouldn't have gotten as deep as any of us would while playing.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that depth, this is a game that, to be clear, has tons of skill expression. The more you play, the deeper you go on learning the ins and outs of your decks and the strategy. There is a lot to do and a lot to learn about how to play the game, about what the tactics and the strategies are. So really rewarding for competitive players.
Yes, nice. and I have had, even though there's some, that can be that fast-paced, high-level competitive players who built their deck, have sped through their deck. Mm-hmm. I also have had games that have gone, 15, 20 minutes that feel like that back-and-forth struggle that I expect from an FFG game. Right?
Oh, yeah. I've played some very intense control mirrors in this game, where it's really on edge for like 20 minutes.
Right, absolutely. So let's talk about the game on the table now.
Yeah.
So we've hinted at it in a couple of the things that we've said. So tell me what I'm going to see when I sit down to play a game.
For sure. When you sit down across from your opponent, this is a trading card game, so of course you're going to have your deck of cards with your units, your events, your upgrades that you draw into your hand and then play out over the course of several turns. Mm-hmm. But there's also 2 cards that are going to stay in play throughout the game. The first is your base card, and the other is your leader card. And that leader is really the heart of your deck. That's what you're building your whole deck around. It's going to be an iconic Star Wars character, someone like Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, and it's going to have an ability that informs your deck building, your strategy, the way you play the game. And these leaders are double-sided, so it'll start on its horizontal undeployed side with, again, that ability that you can always have access to. Then midway through the game, you're going to flip it over and deploy it as a powerful unit that can really turn the tide of battle in your favor. And the way I like to think about it, this is actually something I talked about with Nate French, our executive game designer, is that the front of the leader is very much the strategic side, the side that is informing how you build your deck. And then the back of the leader, the side you deploy to, is much more tactical. It's about when is the best moment in the game to bring my leader into play to really have the most impact. and really shift things in my favor.
Yep, and this, I think one of the important things that we kind of established very early on in the R&D was this idea that this is the expression of the player. We want these characters to be the things that drive your desire to play the game and to get the experience that you want. We want you to look at your favorite character and pick that leader card to drive the rest of your experience, right? In deck building, in play style, all of those things. It was such an incredible part of like where the design started, which is how do we really focus in on these iconic Star Wars characters?
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. So we know what it looks like on the table.
Yeah.
You mentioned you sit across from your opponent.
Yes.
How do I interact with my opponent during this game? Because that's something that I think is very special to this game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that we have learned from past games we've made at FFG that I think is a bit different from many other trading card games people might have played, which is that this is not a game where if Jim and I are playing, I sit down, I take my whole turn, play a bunch of cards, do a bunch of attacks, use a bunch of abilities. Jim's just sitting there like, okay, when is your turn over? And then it goes over to him. This is a game that's built around back and forth actions. So I'll do one thing. I'll play a card. I'll attack with one unit. I will use one ability. Then it's Jim's action. Jim gets a chance to jump in and he can attack or play a card or do whatever he's going to do. And it bounces back to me. And that really creates very fun, engaging, back and forth gameplay that's really easy to jump into. Yep. And it also creates a lot of opportunities for tactics, where some of the most skill testing moments in the game, I think, are knowing how to sequence those actions, knowing what is the most important thing for me to do first, knowing that my opponent immediately will have a chance to jump in and react, perhaps disrupt me. Maybe my action needs to be disrupting my opponent because they have something important to do. So that's really one of the things I love about the game, one of my favorite elements that I think sets it apart from other trading card games I've played.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So now we've talked about a couple things. Now we talk about playing things to the field. We have something unique with this game as well that we didn't do previously.
Yes, and something that I think just feels so Star Wars, which is we have a space arena and a ground arena.
Yep.
And these are two separate spaces on the table where if I have space units, things like X-Wings, TIE Fighters, Star Destroyers, they're getting played to the space arena on one side of the board. If I have ground units, Stormtroopers, Jedi, ATSTs, those are going to be on the other side of the board in the ground arena. And we're not going to dive too deep into combat today, but the key to those arenas is that space units are going to be engaging in combat with other space units. They're going to be attacking each other. They're not going to be attacking across arenas. So you're not going to have a situation where a Jawa attacks a Star Destroyer, right?
Correct.
And again, this is an area where there's a ton of opportunity for strategy and tactics, where starting from when you build your deck, deciding the balance of space versus ground units you need in your deck. And then turn to turn, as you're sculpting your hand, as you're deciding what to play on a given turn. Some games, it might be, my opponent's going heavy into ground. I need to put ground units down to defend against that. Other games might go the opposite direction. Opponent's going heavy into ground. I want to go the other way and go into space where they can't stop me. So knowing how to interact with space and ground is another big area where you can show a lot of skill in the game.
Absolutely. And I think from I come from a very long history of Star Wars card games, and there's always finding that idea of striking a balance between simulationist and abstract, right?
Yeah.
And various games have done various degrees of that over time. For us, I think it was important here to kind of lean into the idea that we want some form of a simulation experience, right? And when you think about any of the major Star Wars films and the big battle experiences, you always see there's the group of fighters and capital ships in space dealing with something there, while the ground units are dealing with some kind of ground battle. And then I kind of like to think of the character that you've chosen is a way to represent that very personal, character-like experience that exists, where you are, again, identifying with this individual character and how they're influencing the effects of kind of everything going on. So it's one of the things from a thematic huge Star Wars fan side that I think really plays well in this experience.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's one of those things where we really thought a lot about how to strike that balance of
Yes.
making sure that it felt like Star Wars, but didn't get bogged down in a lot of complicated rules or simulationist details.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not being as abstract to
Right,
have the Jawa
yes.
destroy the Star Destroyer.
Exactly.
It's one powerful Jawa.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to move past this before we just leak everything and spoil everything that will get the rest of the marketing team to murder me.
Yes, if we just keep going, we'll be talking about the whole thing.
So we are going to pivot a little bit here before we get too deep into stuff that we will be sharing with you, just not today. And we want to talk about FFG and kind of what we're doing on the back end for this game. Yeah. And like just the level of commitment we've put in already. And we're going to have Jim kind of give us a little bit about that as our product strategy director.
Yeah, we've obviously seen, if you've been paying attention to any of the articles that have released, we've talked quite a bit about the level of commitment from like a resourcing standpoint, right? We have more people working on this, but than any of our products. But I think one of the ways in which we can kind of showcase some of this is we're deep in development on more than just set 1 and set 2 and set 3.
Yes.
So we can tell you now today what the names of those sets are, but instead of just talking about what they are, why don't we show you what the set logos look like? So set 1, Spark of Rebellion, followed up by set 2, Shadows of the Galaxy, and set 3, Twilight of the Republic. We're not going to go too much into detail of what those means. I'll let you speculate,
they'll speculate.
as they go. Yeah, they will certainly speculate. But this represents the first 12 months of content for the game. And these are well along their way. We are very aware of when we want these to hit, and I have full confidence that we will be able to nail it with these. And hopefully you'll see in that a little bit of everything that you like about Star Wars represented. Mm-hmm. So the first 12 months in those 3 sets.
Yeah. So we're talking about the game, but internally, you've talked about how we've put a lot of resources in, but just how many resources do we have working on this game?
Yeah, as we've said, an unprecedented amount in terms of number of people working on this. We have 3 distinct teams working simultaneously on multiple sets. We have people in basically our entire art department, our entire graphic design department, in some way contributing to these products. So there is absolutely nothing like this in our history. We are extremely committed to making this game successful.
Yeah. And in addition to what we are doing internally,
yes,
one of our sister studios, GameGenic,
yep,
is also already way ahead of the game to where they'd normally be. Jim and I got a little sneak peek on a European trip, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, the GameGenic is putting, it's so good, Danny. I can't wait to show you.
We haven't rubbed it in Danny's face at all.
Yeah, not at all. But it's actually like GameGenic is creating an entire suite of products that they're going to launch simultaneously with the game when it comes out in 2024. And all of it will be amazing. I'm not going to, again, spoil for Danny or for everybody else exactly what's involved. GameGenic will do a great job of showcasing their amazing products. But just know, again, this isn't just a FFG endeavor. This is truly an Asmodee endeavor, and we're going to incorporate all of our lessons and cool products into the experience.
Yes, we are. And in addition to all of that stuff, we also built a website dedicated to this game. That is the first time in our history that we have even thought about dedicating a website completely to a game that will have so much more content on it than I can tell you about right now.
So much.
But very excited for it. Obviously, you've seen the articles popping up on it. You've seen the look of the website, but there is so much more to come that we're very excited for. And in addition to that, all of our social channels that we've got, all of our Unlimited FFG social handles, we are doing things throughout the entire company that we have never done for a game before, and I'm loving all of it. I'm so excited for all of it. So,
very much so.
Danny,
yes,
you mentioned a couple times earlier that this is a TCG specifically. So do we want to talk about what a TCG is? We might have some people that are watching that have only played other FFG titles and not really gotten into a, real like deep TCG.
Sure, yeah. So this is a TCG, a trading card game. What that means is the primary way you're going to be acquiring cards for this game is by buying randomized booster packs with cards of varying rarities in there. And one thing I want to note when talking about this is that these booster packs have been optimized for draft and sealed play. For those who don't know, those are formats where you basically go to your local game store or to your friend's house and open packs and build your deck on the fly right there at the table. Some of the most fun ways to play trading card games.
Yeah, and I kind of want to jump in with a little bit on that because I've seen, again, some of the conversation happening is why aren't we doing an LCG for this? And I think that limited play, that I know the unlimited game, a limited play, but the limited play formats like draft, like sealed, they are things that just we have tried several different times, several different ways to bring that experience to an LCG. That doesn't work. That competitive scene, like competitive games in general, I feel strongly need the ability to play in multiple formats. That's one of the things that creates a lot of excitement and brings different people in to experience the game in a way that excites them. That and that opportunity really exists best in the TCG space. From my, from the way that we kind of philosophically approached it. And that doesn't mean, I want to be clear, right? Our LCGs are strong. We love them both very dearly and will continue to be supported and will absolutely continue to be LCGs. Let's be very clear about that as well. But I think that the reason we do a TCG game is that from the competitive standpoint and the product types that you can do, it can support all of these different formats, and that you really can't get that in an LCG as much as we've tried.
Yeah, and this is a game that from the ground up we built with those multiple formats in mind.
Yes,
you can play
day one.
Draft and sealed with just booster packs. You don't need any additional products to play those formats. Obviously, competitive 1v1 will be a big format as well. There's multiplayer that we've been thinking about from the very start.
Yep.
So many ways to play, and it's something, as you said, that I think a trading card game is the best way to incorporate all those formats.
Well, and we discussed right at the beginning of design, these were essential. These weren't to be considered after the fact. The design itself had to incorporate the idea that you could play these limited formats, that you could play multiplayer. All of that had to be part of the way we did the game, or we weren't going to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. So with a TCG, we also know that they come out in sets. We've talked about the 3 sets that we have for the first 12 months. And we said, in an article that there were over 200. And then we said there were over 250 cards in set 1. Yeah. But our eagle-eyed viewers have already long pointed out
shock nobody.
that there is a number in the bottom right corner of any of the cards we've been showing that says 252. So we're just, there are 252 unique cards in this set.
Yes. Unique is key. Mechanically unique.
Yes, that is very important. So why is that important? Why don't you explain to me why it's important that there are 252 unique cards?
I will, Josh. So 252, as I said, number of mechanically unique cards in the set. But for each of those cards, there are going to be multiple versions with different cosmetic treatments, whether that's foil, alternate frame, some alternate art even. Which pushes the actual number of distinct cards in the set well beyond 252. And something you and I talked about a lot right when we were talking about how to do this as a trading card game was how important it was for us that the basic pieces you need to play the game, the simple version of the card, the regular art, regular frame, non-foil, that should not be hard to acquire. That should be accessible. If you just need a card to play your deck, you can get that card. And then the chase is going to be these really cool blinged out versions, these foils and alternate frames and whatnot, so that for the collectors, or just even for the player who wants their deck to look a little fancy, those are the things that you open in a booster pack and you're like, whoa, that's really rare, that's really exciting. So yeah, from the start we said the basic versions should be accessible. The fancy cosmetic upgrades are the things that players should be chasing in their packs.
Yeah, and from a kind of a product philosophy kind of perspective, this idea of we want a place, right? If you're here to play the game, oftentimes in other products we see the only thing to chase is the rarest version of a card. You know, the rarest rarity card that still has mechanical uniqueness, and that means that collectors and players alike are going to be chasing the same content. The idea of being able to take cosmetic upgrades to things means that it kind of separates that experience so that collectors can really focus on the cool, collectible, blinged out version of content, while the players, it means that the kind of the pricing of the experience in what inevitably will be a secondary market will keep those prices at a manageable, reasonable point, because everyone who's going to be paying for, you know, the cosmetic side of things is separated. And that's, again, very intentional, because we want the game to be played and accessible to do so.
Yeah, and if you are one of those people who just wants the cards to play the game, and
Jim
you open one of those,
weird.
you know, crazy alt art foils, maybe you can find someone, a collector like Jim, and say, I'll trade you this foil card for 5 cards I need for my deck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. It's again built in from the beginning.
Right. It's going to add a lot to it for different levels of players or different levels of people who want to engage with the game, which is spectacular. So there are a couple things that I want to talk about really quickly before we get to my bit. We've talked about it in articles in the press release already a little bit, but we want to talk a little bit more about kind of what we have access to with this game, because it's different than what we've done for some of our other games. So what do we get to pull from when we are working on Star Wars Unlimited?
Yeah, so we are not locked into any one specific era or specific source material. For this game, we're pulling from a variety of sources, from movies, from TV shows, from video games, from comic books. And it's just really exciting, honestly. We have such a range of Star Wars content to draw from, and the hope is that whatever your favorite part of Star Wars is, you might see it represented in the game.
Yep. Well, and that's, I mean, you know, one of the things we've obviously talked about, and now you've seen some actual cards and card art, and
some of it floating around us today.
And the idea, of course, is that we wanted to find an art style that kind of was able to take all of these different mediums that Star Wars content exists in, whether it's, you know, the comic book style or the several different animation styles that exist on the shows, the films, live action TV, all of these things, and bring them together in some style that makes it so they look like they belong together on the table. But even more than that, the idea behind creating kind of this new art is we wanted Unlimited to have its own very unique look. And we wanted it to be very recognizable across the table. And so that really led into, I mean, from day one, it was about how can we blend all of these different Star Wars mediums into a cohesive experience.
Sweet. Are you done now? Can I have my turn? Can I take my turn?
So.
I guess.
So, luckily for all of you, there is no close-up cam for me. So, you're welcome. We'll start with that. So now it's my turn to talk about OP. We're not going to switch chairs. We're not going to have you guys interview me. I'm just going to...
We can do interviews.
Should we? You guys have to share this chair, though, if we do it.
All right, that's
okay. Sounds good. All right. So let's talk a little bit about OP. So... You're right. Sorry, distractions. We're going to talk about OP. And one of the things that I just want to start with is, just like this game, OP is something that has been considered from the get-go, and we as FFG have a lot of experience in. I love where things were getting. Obviously, before the world shut down, I feel like our organized play was really like ramping up for a lot of our games. And we've taken a lot of the information we've gathered from those events and these big cool things that we were able to do, and we're going to be implementing them for this game in any way that makes sense. We also, I mentioned it, we've been thinking about OP since almost the very beginning. Like, really, when was it that we first talked about it?
I mean, I'm pretty sure before we even put together all the pitch documentation, we were like, OP is essential and needs to be day one. How can we work you into the pitch conversation that we're going to have? So, I think it was that probably our first step after our own kind of initial discussions.
Talking to Josh. I mean, there was a whole section in our initial pitch on organized play for this game.
And why it was essential. Absolutely.
So the game and organized play have been in the works for 3 years. And I have loved that because obviously working with you guys is great. But I have loved having this opportunity to really think about what we're going to do and where we want to focus our organized play. So let's actually talk about that a little bit with our main 3 focuses for organized play. So we have what we're calling our 3 C's of organized play, which are connect, collect, and compete. These 3 pillars of what we're doing for organized play really focus on the type of people that we think that we're going to see across the board for OP events. We are going to have the people who want to connect, who want to just go to their local game store and make friends and have that that second family that you really can build when you have this close-knit community. We are going to focus on the Jim Cartwrights. Sadly, I mean, Cartwright is a C. We could have done collect, Cartwright, compete, but we left it at collect. We absolutely also need to be focusing on the collectors in this game. And organized play is going to be doing additional treatments. You know, Danny's talked about the ones you'll find in the packs, but we're going to have even more for people to really build out and, I like to say, bling out their decks with and really show off the cool things that they've been involved in and the time that they've been involved too. Like seeing set 1 OP promo cards when we roll into future sets. I won't throw out any numbers because then somebody's going to say, confirmed! I'm not going to do that. But as we get farther down the road, like seeing all that cool stuff is something that we really want those collectors to have from organized play as well. And then obviously the competitor. They are somebody we are absolutely going to be focusing on and talking to and about throughout organized play because we want to have those big, exciting events. So, in talking about those events, we are kind of breaking our organized play down into 2 very distinct sections. So, for those that have seen the article, you will have seen this image already, but we are going to focus on our casual side of organized play separately from our competitive side. Granted, people can cross over whenever they want and however they want, but we really want to make sure that people have a path to choose if they want to choose a path.
Yep.
So with the casual side of organized play, we have a cycle that will exist with every single card set that comes out, starting with a pre-release event that will be happening before the actual launch. I can't even tell you how giddy I have been talking about pre-releases and how perfectly it works with the way the game is designed with sealed and draft and play. Yeah. We are able to do these with, honestly, I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but with minimal effort on my part because you have done all the work in making it easy for me. So,
and let's be clear, it's pre-release for every set.
For every single set. This is not a launch of the game event.
It's a pre-release for every set.
Yep. So this casual cycle that people have seen in the article starts with the pre-release for every set that comes out. We also have weekly play on there, which is something that stores will be able to host on a regular basis, giving out promo cards to players who are just coming and attending and having a good time. And then we do also have an event in there. I will point that out. I know it's separate from the competitive side, but our store showdown event is going to be a way for somebody to just kind of dip their toe in and just see if they like the water, right? Yeah. Play in an event, play in a tournament where it is a little more focused on how you do, but not fully competitive because it doesn't fit into that competitive structure.
Every galactic champion has to start somewhere.
Sure. Yeah, wow, I'm going to use that one. Can we clip that? Thank you. So, obviously, that's the casual side. We have our competitive side. The competitive side is broken down into 3 qualifying events. These qualifying events will take place in your local game store for one of the event series, and then outside of the game store, it's standalone events for the other 2. All of these qualifiers we did mention in our article today. Those qualifying events will give you tournament points. Tournament points are going to be your qualifier for that galactic championship. And the cool thing is the tournament points from one event aren't worth more than another event, but the event itself might give more or less tournament points based on the level of the event and how many people are in attendance. one cool thing with this, just going back to our past a little bit, is when we gave out invitations at a store level event, the winner of that event would get an invitation and they would get to go to Worlds or whatever that final event was, depending on the game. For this, it's not limited to just the first place person, just that, the winner of the event, if you will. It will trickle down, so people will be able to accumulate points throughout the year, even if they're not winning every event that they go to, which is exciting because getting that Galactic Championship invitation is going to be super exciting. And we want people to get excited about it and to build it up. And in talking, about the website a little bit earlier, I will remind people, or tell people who didn't read the article yet, that these tournament points are tied to your personal account on StarWarsUnlimited.com. So this is something you can refer to. You can take a snapshot of and show it off to your friends when you do get that invite. And I'm super hyped about it. It's something we haven't been able to do in the past, but because of the website and because of the additional things that we're doing, something that we have access to that is just, it's enough to get me giddy.
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I'm super stoked.
Yeah. And I will say now, obviously we're not going to dive too deep into the rest of organized play right here, right now. But as we continue talking about the game and give you more, information on that, we will be doing the same with organized play. We will let you know what to expect and when to expect it alongside the game. And I'm also excited for that. So, one final reminder. This game is launching globally, when was that?
2024.
2024.
And that's all we're saying at this point.
Yes. Launching globally in 2024. I didn't emphasize anything there specifically.
No reason.
And yeah, that's all we really had planned for the stream. Did either of you have any kind of final thoughts? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I have a lot of things I want to talk about with this game that I will probably get in trouble with marketing if I start talking about it.
Casey has a slap button built into my phone, and I don't know, my arm just moves. It's weird, real weird.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's incredible to finally be able to talk about this with people. Throughout the year, we'll be talking about this a lot. So I am very much making sure to be aware of how much we're saying, but over time, this will all, we'll be revealing all over the course of the next, the course of this year for sure. So,
yeah. All right, sweet. So, for all of you who are here and all of you who watch this later, to continue to keep up with the content that we're putting out there, make sure that you're subscribed here. Make sure that you're watching StarWarsUnlimited.com and following all of our socials at UnlimitedFFG. And we will be giving you as much as we can whenever they let us. All right. Well, seriously, so thank you both for joining today. This has been wonderful. I have been excited for this. Yeah. Not quite as much as the announce last week, but I've been excited for this conversation. And thank you to all of you for joining us today.
Yes.
Without you, this just wouldn't be what it is.
So very true. Thank you all.
And we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.